The Tech Grandma's Revenge, Margaret Chen's Ultimate Payback. This story is fictional for entertainment purposes only. San Francisco 2025, the gleaming tech hub of America. But in a modest Victorian house in the Sunset District, 73-year-old Margaret Chen was being humiliated in the worst way possible. It started at her favorite coffee shop on Irving Street. Margaret was trying to order her usual cappuccino when a young barista, maybe 25, rolled his eyes. "Ma'am, we don't take cash anymore. It's 2025, you need to use the app." Margaret fumbled with her phone. The interface had changed again. She couldn't figure out where to tap. Behind her, a woman in yoga pants sighed loudly. "Oh my God, can someone just help the old lady? Some of us have actual jobs to get to." Laughter rippled through the line. Margaret's face burned with shame. She left without her coffee. But that was just the beginning. A week later, Margaret got an email from her apartment building manager, a 28-year-old tech bro named Dylan who'd bought the building 6 months ago. The email was brutal. "Margaret, your lease is up for renewal. Unfortunately, we're looking for tenants who better fit our building's vibe. We're going in a younger, more tech-savvy direction. You have 60 days." Margaret had lived there for 30 years. She raised her daughter there. Her husband died there. She called Dylan's office. His assistant, a young woman named Brittany, answered. "Look, Margaret, Dylan's very busy. He's disrupting the real estate space. Maybe you should look into senior housing. I'm sure there are nice facilities in, like, Daly City or whatever." The condescension dripped through the phone like poison. The breaking point came at the DMV. Margaret needed to renew her driver's license, but the system was now fully digital. A young DMV worker, barely 22, spoke to her like she was a child. "Okay, Grandma, let me explain this very slowly. You click here. Then you type your information here. Can you do that?" Other people in line smirked. One guy filmed it on his phone. "This is going on TikTok," he laughed. Tech-challenged granny can't figure out basic stuff. Margaret felt tears prick her eyes. But then something shifted. The tears stopped. Her jaw set. Her eyes went cold. These young punks had no idea who they were messing with. That night, Margaret sat in her small apartment and opened an old box from her closet. Inside were mementos from another life. Her Stanford University Computer Science PhD diploma, 1979. Her employee badge from Xerox PARC, where the graphical user interface was invented. Photos of her shaking hands with Steve Jobs at an early Apple conference. A letter of recommendation from Grace Hopper, the mother of computer programming. Margaret Chen wasn't just some old lady. She was a pioneer. She'd written code before most of these kids' parents were born. She'd helped build the technology these entitled millennials and Gen Z brats took for granted. She opened her laptop, not the simple one she pretended to use, but her real machine. The one with systems and access that would make a hacker weep. "Time to remind them," she whispered, "that the old guard built the playground they're playing in." Target 1, Dylan the landlord. Margaret spent one night digging into Dylan's background. What she found was gold. His disruptive real estate empire, built entirely on his parents' money. His Stanford degree, bought through a generous donation. His previous startup failed spectacularly, leaving investors broke. Margaret created a simple, devastating website, techbrotruth.com. She posted every receipt, every failed venture, every lie. Then she sent it to every tech journalist in San Francisco. Within 48 hours, Dylan was a trending topic on Twitter. Trust fund fraud, they called him. His investors started pulling out. Banks started calling his loans. Target 2, the coffee shop barista. The eye-rolling barista named Tyler had a side hustle. He was an influencer, trying to make it big. He posted daily videos of his luxury lifestyle on Instagram. Margaret hacked his account not hard. His password was literally Tyler2000. She discovered something interesting. All those luxury items were rented or borrowed. The watches, the cars, the designer clothes, all fake. She created a simple comparison video showing Tyler's post next to rental receipts and sent it anonymously to influencer call-out accounts. Tyler's follow count dropped from 50,000 to 3,000 overnight. Brand deals evaporated. Target 3, the DMV worker and the TikToker. The DMV worker, Ashley, had been posting about her job on Reddit, including confidential information about DMV applicants, a massive privacy violation and federal crime. Margaret compiled everything, cross-referenced it with privacy laws, and sent a detailed report to the California Attorney General's office. Ashley was fired within a week. She faced potential criminal charges. The TikToker who filmed Margaret, she found out he'd been using copyrighted music without licenses. One report to the rights holders, and his entire account was deleted. 2 years of content gone, but Margaret wasn't done. She had one more play. She organised every tenant over 60 in Dylan's building, and there were 15 of them. Using her connections, she contacted a pro bono law firm specialising in tenant rights. Turns out Dylan's eviction notices violated 6 different San Francisco tenant protection laws. The city's rent control board got involved. The media loved the story tech bro bullies senior citizens gets destroyed by 73-year-old coding legend. Dylan didn't just have to let them stay, he faced massive fines and had to sell the building at a loss. 3 weeks after her revenge campaign started, Margaret got a call from a journalist at TechCrunch. Ms. Chen, we heard about what happened with Dylan's building. Then we started digging into your background. Why didn't anyone know that you're basically a Silicon Valley founding mother? Margaret smiled. Because I retired quietly. I raised my daughter. I lived my life. But just because I chose peace doesn't mean I forgot how to fight. The interview went viral. Suddenly Margaret was everywhere: podcasts, news shows, tech conferences. Young people were shocked to learn that coding wasn't invented by Mark Zuckerberg, that women had been there from the beginning, that the old people they mocked had literally built the digital world. Act 8, the apology tour. Dylan showed up at Margaret's door 2 months later. He looked terrible thinner, exhausted, humbled. Ms. Chen, I'm sorry. I was an arrogant jerk, I thought. I thought because I knew how to use an app. I was smart. But you built the systems that apps run on. I didn't understand. I'm truly deeply sorry. Margaret looked at him for a long moment. Do you know why I'm accepting your apology, Dylan? He shook his head. Because I was your age once. I made mistakes. The difference is when I screwed up, I learned. Will you? Dylan nodded, tears in his eyes. I will. I promise. Margaret later heard he'd changed his business model now. He renovated buildings while protecting long-time tenants and actually learned about the communities he served. Tyler the barista sent a handwritten note, I'm sorry for being dismissive. I'm taking night classes now. Trying to build something real instead of just looking good online. 6 months later, Margaret stood on a stage at a San Francisco tech conference. Thousands of young faces looked up at her. You see someone old, she began, and you assume they don't understand your world. But we built your world. We wrote the first lines of code that became your apps. We soldered the first circuit boards that became your computers. We imagined the internet before you were born. The room was silent. Age isn't ignorance. Experience isn't obsolescence. And respect isn't something you only give to people with verified badges and follow accounts. She paused, letting it sink in. I didn't need revenge because my ego was hurt. I needed to teach a lesson: never mistake quietness for weakness. Never assume someone can't fight back just because they choose not to. And never, ever underestimate a woman who's been coding since 1975. The room erupted in applause, genuine, thunderous, awed applause. Margaret smiled. She'd made her point. Back at her apartment, which she now owned after Dylan sold the building to a tenant, cooperative Margaret made herself a cappuccino with her new espresso machine. Her phone buzzed. Her daughter calling from New York. Mom, you're trending on Twitter again. Something about original gangster grandma of Silicon Valley. Margaret laughed. Tell them OG stands for original genius, honey. She hung up, sipped her perfect cappuccino, and opened her laptop. Someone had to keep an eye on these kids. And now they knew Grandma was watching. And Grandma knew everything. In a world obsessed with youth, Margaret Chen reminded everyone of a fundamental truth. The foundation you stand on was built by people who came before you. Disrespect them at your peril. Because the quiet old lady in line at the coffee shop? She might just be the person who invented the code running your entire life. Never underestimate the power of experience. And never ever mess with a tech pioneer who's just been waiting for a reason to come out of retirement.